welcome back to Getting to the Top, where we interview transformational leaders about their leadership journey in hopes that we can inspire you on your leadership journey, whether you're well into it or just getting started. What we want is a better world with better results, and we think that diversity at the top will help us to get there. So today I'm interviewing Chitra Rajeshwari, and I am really excited to be interviewing her. She is a woman in a different field, and I think really a lot to give, and has been so incredibly supportive in just the few months that I've known her. So I'm really excited to be talking to her today. So Chitra, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Racquel, for this opportunity. It's such a pleasure to meet you again. Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm Chitra Rajeshwari, and I'm the Executive Director with Avasant Foundation. Avasant is a global management strategy firm, and the foundation is the non-for-profit arm of Avasant. So I lead the foundation, and I'm also the principal lead for the global development practice, which is also one of the verticals within Avasant, doing a lot of for-profit work in the social impact space. So what is interesting is I do social impact work from the non-for-profit side of the company and also from the for-profit side. I'm also responsible for the ESG practice within the organization.
And that's how we cross paths, because there's so much happening in ESG right now. So, but I want to start with your journey. You know, you've been with Avasant for many, many years, and you've had quite an impact. So tell us about how did you start? Where did your career start, and what did you think you were going to do?
It's a very interesting question. I hope you have all the time in the world for it. I'm like a cat with, I think, 9 lives. I think I'm on my 8th life right now.
No.
I started my career actually in the travel industry.
Oh, wow.
You know, way back then, I grew up in an environment where my father was in the Air Force. So every few years we moved to a different place. So I had that travel bug in me from a very young age. And so I thought, oh, getting into the travel industry would get me to see places. Not knowing that down the road, I'll have so much passion to travel that I will create those opportunities for myself. So I started my career in the travel industry, working for corporate sector, for the corporate travel, you know, doing corporate travel, really advanced very quickly into senior position within the travel industry. And I started my career in India. I was born and raised there. And then subsequently, I came to the United States, and I worked for a small travel agency. And then I was hired to work for the Condé Nast Traveler magazine, doing their travel for them, which was fascinating, living in New York, living the high life, and really experiencing everything that the glitz and glamour of the travel brought with it. And then subsequently, I moved. So what I tend to do is whenever I take some time off between jobs, I always go 100%, give 100% of my time into the non-for-profit space. So I moved to Sydney, Australia. I had just met my husband, who's from Australia, and I worked in the non-for-profit space there, just giving my time for about just shy of about 18 months or so, converting an organization that worked with people suffering from dementia, transferring all their documents from, you know, big ledgers into computers, you know, and got recognized by the government of Australia. I actually have a first-class stamp with my picture on it because I was nominated as one of the volunteers of the year. The government was recognizing a number of volunteers from various sectors. And then came to New York. Came back to New York and then continued, got a job in the banking industry, which is so different from travel to what I was doing. Never did I ever think in my life that I'd work for the banking industry, but it was very fascinating with what it did. Again, very quickly, I grew the ladder of the industry, got into a VP position, managing the cross-business development across multiple verticals for North America. And then we had the great recession where the industry collapsed and everything was packing up. And I wanted to do something very different. I was not interested in going back into the banking industry. So I did my executive MBA on sustainability and worked in that space for some time. And then subsequently, I opened a small business of my own, working with 3 other colleagues in the space of innovation. And it was more people focused, which was really fascinating for me. And then as I was thinking, you know, what else should I do? But I always, from a very young age, wanted to be in the non-for-profit space. And then this job at Avasant Foundation came to me through a mutual contact. And I met the CEO. He invited me for lunch and offered me the job. And I helped define the mission statement, the vision statement for the foundation. And I've been leading the foundation since 2014. And then in the past few years, they also offered me to take on the ownership responsibility of the global development practice. So I also manage that practice, lead that practice. And then we started getting more engaged in the ESG. So that also falls under the global development, but I am also responsible for it. So yeah, I've had multiple change in my careers. I look at myself more as a change maker. And my leadership strength comes from those changes that I've had, because they've had a very positive impact in whatever I do in my life.
Well, I love it. I mean, going from travel to banking to entrepreneurship to you know, solutions, it's as though you allowed. So how much of it was you? I think the first question I want to ask you is, you know, what would you attribute your meteoric rise to in each organization? Is it your hard work, your willingness to take on new things, your open-mindedness? What would you attribute it to? And what do you think others would say?
All of the above and more. I'm very open to challenges, and I love the fact that I go into something that's brand new and I have to hit the road running. I like that kind of pressure and challenge. I thrive in chaos. I call it the organized chaos, but that's what makes me do my best work, because it brings the best out of me when I know that there's so much stuff going on. I have to learn something, but it's new. And that's the excitement of it. And I'm so open to change, because like I said, from a young age, I've moved to, even when I was going to school, I've been to so many different schools because of my father's transfer, and he believed in taking his family with him, that I had to learn to adapt, to be engaged and accept my new surroundings. And I think that's so embedded in me that now I thrive on that, because that makes me very energetic. It makes me want to learn more. And then the fact that I'm going to learn something new, meet new people, it's new engagement, it's something so different. And that kind of stimulation is really exciting. And the word is thrilling is the word for me. I find it very thrilling.
I love that. So your own resilience is almost like your superpower, because you can sort of bounce from one thing and bounce to something else and discover something new. You're probably the first person I know that sort of thrives in chaos, and you're going to have to tell me about how to do that. I'm not good at that at all. And that's definitely something that I need to develop. But when you were in the travel industry, you mentioned you sort of opened a business that was people focused. So tell me a little bit about your foray into entrepreneurship. Tell me a little bit more about that business.
Sure. So I met 3 interesting people. We were all from different parts of the world, an American, a French, an English, and my Indian by birth. And we started something called as innovative solutions. And what we did was we went to businesses and we offered them that solutions should come from within. And this is the concept that I have. That's how I thrive, and that's how I succeed. And I feel that when you identify a problem, don't come to me with a problem. Come to me with at least a solution of some kind. So what we proposed to companies was that, what are some of your pressing issues that's internal to the organization, not external at all? And then how do you solve your problem? And most companies will do it top down. They'll say, oh, let's go to management. Management will give you the direction, run with it. I mean, like, no, that should not be the way it should be. It should be a mixture of people from low end, mid-level, people from the particular department, people from outside the department that they kind of engage with. Put your heads together, take a whiteboard, throw some information up there, and then create the solution. And once you have some kind of an idea, bring people like us in, and we'll help to format that for you, put a structure to it so that you actually come up with a solution, but it's your solution because you know that will work because you came up with that solution.
Oh,
You
I
just
love
need an
that.
outside brain to just guide you and kind of
To
nudge
collate
you
and to
through it.
distill, but not necessarily to
Still,
come up with
yeah,
the idea,
exactly,
because
create it and distill it for you.
there's so many people on the front lines who are working with customers or working with systems or working within organizations, and they see the problems and they also have ideas about the solutions, but it somehow never filters up either to
Yeah.
the people who are making the decisions or even through their managers, because they don't feel like they might be heard. I
That's
think
very true.
that's really
very
important. So were there any similarities so you took what you learned in travel to banking, and then you took what you learned in banking to entrepreneurship, and then you took what you learned there to Avasant Foundation. And so what was one of the sort of best pieces of advice you received, or one of the greatest things that you learned on this journey?
So way back when I started my career, I remember one of my senior executives telling me that everything you do has a meaning or will have an impact further down the road. So don't look at what you do today for today. Look at it for what it's worth tomorrow or in the future. And hold on to those. Hold on to those experiences. Hold on to those successes, but also hold on to the failures, because that will help you to advance better or do better. And so most people will be like, okay, I don't want to remember the ugliness of what happened in an X job because I left the job, and I just want to take my fun memories and go with it. That is true. You want to take the successes with you, but how do you get better, or how do you improve if you don't acknowledge your failures? And so that I learned that at a very young age. And I've never forgotten. I know sometimes you want to forget, but actually, when you sit back and reflect, and it's nice that I have a good number of years under my belt to reflect, and I can say that it has helped me a lot to make me a better person, a better leader, a better individual, a better team player, so that you're able to take some of those flaws, but also many of the successes, and always look ahead.
What would you consider your leadership style?
Friendly.
So you're a friend, but then how do you lead with that friendliness? Is it, you're a consensus getter? How does that manifest itself?
So the reason I say friendly is because I don't want people to think that you're somebody that they cannot approach, or you're beyond reach, or I cannot say this to that person because I have to be always correct. So I like to be a little bit more open. So it's friendly comes from the term of being very open. I tend to be a little casual. I don't like that formal barriers to be put forward. When I met you, I tend to make it a little bit more ease of the conversation. But that doesn't mean to say that I'm not focused, but that is my style. So sometimes for the other person, it could be a little disadvantage. So sometimes I have to be careful. But for me, keeping it light helps me to push a lot of stuff forward, especially in the non-for-profit space. And when we work in these emerging markets and we have local people working for us, they don't have the corporate America mentality. They're not like go, 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 right? So you got to kind of take a step back, be a little bit laid back with them, and yet be passively aggressive to push your agenda forward. So I look at it as to, if I can get the job done by giving them that space to come into my space, to feel welcome, and that they're able to have a light moment with you, and yet you're not losing focus on what you're trying to do. Why not? But yeah, there are times that you're very focused and you can't put a smile on your face because it's one of those days. But overall, I like it to be a little bit more on the lighter side of it. Keep it on the lighter side of it.
I'm similarly yoked in that. I think it needs to be light, and you need to be approachable. But this is the first time I've ever heard somebody use the term passively aggressive in a positive sense, where you're aggressively moving forward, but it's not necessarily in a super aggressive kind of way. And that's an interesting take on it. So what would you think your team members would say about you? That they would reflect the same thing, or do they receive it differently? Is it disarming? Is it endearing? How does it work for them?
I sincerely hope it's reciprocal. I hear some of the words that I hear from my superiors and from my teammates is tenacity. They say I'm very tenacious. I am very focused. I have a knack with people. I'm approachable. And these are some of the good qualities. You know, you actually invest in yourself to be a better person so that tomorrow when you're leading, you are able to project that. And you should be able to project that without forcing yourself to do so. So it has to come very naturally. And I think that I'm a very people's person. I love humanity. Like I love human beings of any race, color, creed, no matter where, because I think we bring so much to each other. I heard this very interesting quote the other day. I'm a huge tennis buff, and the US Open is going on, and I always have it on the screen in the background. I'm watching the game as I'm working. I can multitask too. And and I heard one of those, I think it was a Rolex ad where it says that, you know, these players, well, the ad just goes on, but basically what he says is they put so much out there because the opponent is their reflection.
Okay.
And I think that was phenomenal, because as human beings, we also literally project each other. You know, you talk to me with a smile, I automatically smile. You have a frown, I frown, right? You raise your voice, I either get submissive or I raise my voice. We mirror each other so much that it's good to project positiveness, so that it reflects back at you, because eventually it comes back to you.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great tidbit, because I think that's so true. Huh? You find when people are mistrusting or fearful, it's because they're afraid, and they, you know, or maybe they can't be trusted. And so it's just to sort of humanize that opponent or anybody that you're working with, so that you can sort of see things from their point of view. Certainly something that I think I learned a bit late, but certainly, you know, developing now. But your success has transcended different cultures. You know, you've gone from India to the US to Australia. How has that been culturally? Because different cultures operate in different ways. So how have you been able to transcend all of these different cultures?
Again, you know, you have to be open. I come from India. It is so complex. The word is complex. You have the young and the old, the new and the old. You have values, you have religions, you have caste, you have creed, you have colors, you have different cuisine. You come from such a complex, multi-dimensional country that everything else actually is so much more easier. You know, a country like Australia is very welcoming, very easy. America, again, but I think for me, again, the values instilled in me comes to play in the forefront, is always there with me, is take the best and leave the rest. And I remember my dad telling me when we were little kids, you know, you have to learn to adopt and live no matter where you are. So you're raised here in India, doesn't mean to say tomorrow you have to live somewhere else, will you be able to do so? I always say, if tomorrow I have to live in any country, I'll just pick up and go, because it's new, it's different, it's people, they have their own culture, and there's so much to learn from them.
Yeah. So that's great advice from your father. So what is that, you know, how many siblings do you have, and what's the order of, where are you in that order?
Oldest is my brother. He lives in Melbourne, Australia, just coincidentally. And then my sister, she lives in India. Myself, and then my youngest sister lives in the Caribbean islands, in Trinidad and Tobago. In your home, in your home country.
Wonderful, wonderful. So four of you. So you were the second to last.
Second last.
Yeah. And so
I wonder, they like to call him the middle child.
I wonder if that sort of contributed to your being very open, because, you know, you sort of came into an environment where systems were already set up, and so you just had to figure out how you fit into this already progressing system, versus the first child who believes that they own the world because, you know, everything revolves around you, and the last child who's a little bit forgotten.
That's true. Or too pampered.
Yes. Because we know you're the last, and so, you know, we have to be careful. So tell me a little bit about Avasant Foundation. Like, what is your focus at Avasant Foundation? And you would have had to set this up from the beginning and have this vision for what this would be. So tell us about that process.
Yeah, it's interesting. So our CEO, Mr. Kevin Meteoric, always wanted to have a giving arm for the company. They'd done a project with Rockefeller Foundation and they wrote a white paper for Rockefeller Foundation. And I think a conversation he had with one of the senior executives, they said, hey, look, you guys seem to understand what you're doing here. It was about youth employment globally. And so why don't you start a foundation? So he started the foundation, I think, in 2012, and they were not really doing anything in it. They just had the foundation figuring out what to do. And then when he found me, he brought me on board. And then he wanted to focus more on children. And I said that youth is the way to go, because they can be the barrier of a growth to any economy if they are not taken care of, right? Yeah. And so I thought, and I've been volunteering since I was like 15, 16 years old. I started with the elderly, then I went to little children, then I went in between, and then I'm at an age where I see the value with youth, and I said, let's work on them. So we created the Youth Empowerment Program through education, which is job-related skills training program. So we provide digital skills training for young adults between ages of 18 to about 26, 28. Our average age group is between 21 to 23. And get them into the corporate sector. So they learn digital skills and they are able to bridge the digital skills gap in their countries and add to the digital talent pool. And then entrepreneurs, micro, small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, to use digital technology so that they can enhance their business and have more global visibility than just have a brick and mortar store. And like the Bahamas, when they had the Hurricane Dorian and COVID, tourism industry died and the small businesses literally collapsed. Whereas if they had an online presence, like using Facebook Marketplace or Etsy or something, they could have still been selling their products, right? So bringing digital skills and enabling them to embrace it really it's been an enlightening experience. And we have graduated in the Caribbean over at least 2,000 plus young adults and got them into the workforce, and globally over 25,000 plus, directly or indirectly, we have impacted their lives.
So you talked about sort of this 25,000 lives that you've impacted, and I think that's so tremendous. And you're dealing with an age group that's already digitally native. So is it much of a challenge, or is it that they soak it up like sponges? They are open to these new ideas. They're putting them immediately into practice. How does that work with the young people that you've worked with?
So all of the above. So majority of them take it in because it's a scholarship for them. They don't have to spend any money. So we use terms like, this is my language to my team, you earned a scholarship. You're worth it. You were recruited among hundreds of applications. So you deserve to be here. And such buzzwords really make an impact on them, and they come and they feel very empowered. And also, we started a program in Guyana, and it was approved in November of 2019. We're putting this whole structure together. It was going to be a hybrid model, and the start date was going to be the 1st of May, and COVID hits. And these are young adults from inner communities. They have no access to internet, computers, nothing. And so everybody thought 3 weeks later, COVID will pass, right? You're waiting, and 6 weeks later, it's still there. And so we had to go back to the drawing board, get very innovative. And we ended up creating a Google, an Avasant learning portal, which is a Google Classroom. And then we ordered 60 laptops because each cohort is 30 students and we do 2 cohorts simultaneously. But supply chain issue was a major crisis. So the laptops wouldn't arrive. So we found candidates or got access to computers so that these 60 students could get started. We bought data and we transferred data to their phones so they could connect to their laptops. Got lecturers from the university to get into the virtual classroom and teach the students. And now I was in Guyana 2 weeks ago, and we finally celebrated in person 280 students who had graduated from a program. And it was such an emotional event because people were meeting each other for the first time. They were meeting the lecturers, they were meeting us. It was so beautiful to see, and they were so grateful for this opportunity because 95% of our students are employed, so that we have a very high success rate as well. So something really works here and it clicks. So, and we're doing a project in the Bahamas. We did one in Trinidad. We have an opportunity to do another one very soon. Haiti, and we did, I don't know, over 1,000 students in Jamaica.
Wow.
So the Latin American Caribbean region, where most people look at it more from a holiday destination, is where we go because people don't really see the poverty and the need for this kind of intervention.
The need for development.
It's really been a very exciting but also humbling journeys thus far.
So you mentioned that the event in Guyana was very emotional. Are you someone who shows your emotion at work, or do you bottle it up? I mean, I would imagine that, being the people person and being as open as you are, that you would express, but I'm curious.
So one of the things I say is, and I think I was listening to one of your earlier podcasts as well. I always tell people the word profit exists in the non-for-profit because that's where you use your head. Because if you're not making money, the organization is going to collapse. Then your mission is going to die. Then you're going to be very sad, and that means your heart is going to be very hurt. So I always feel that you've got to think from your head, get the job done, and then when you have an event like that, you can afford to get emotional because then you're reaping the fruits of your success, and you can show emotions and feel. I was so overwhelmed because I was standing on stage and talking and looking at all the sea of faces, and they all were dressed to the gilt, and they're all looking at me with such gratitude. And
hope and optimism, probably.
It was very overwhelming for me, and I don't know how many hugs I got, and how many thank yous, and how many Jesus will bless you, and but. Yeah, I'm not shy to show my emotion, and I'm also not shy to express my feelings, to say I'm overwhelmed, I'm so emotional, and I feel choked to speak, or tears to come down my eye. But yeah, I carry my emotions on my sleeve. I'm very, and I get angry, I say it. I'm happy, I show it. I'm sad, you can see it. I'm very passionate that way. So
I love that. I love that. So you talked about some of the markets that you work in. Is that primarily where is it? I know it's a global focus for the foundation, but where are you seeing most interest coming from? Is it Latin America and the Caribbean? Are you seeing, where are you seeing the most sort of excitement about the program?
So when I came on board and I started taking the program out of started our projects, I went where Avasant had already been, so that I didn't go cold into a country not knowing. But once I got my foot into Jamaica, then, and we established what we're trying to do, then it became easy to go to places like, for instance, Guyana and Bahamas is new for even Avasant. Avasant's done something in Bahamas, but nothing close to what we're doing. But we've also been fortunate that we have, like, Inter-American Development Bank believes in us, and we get funding from them. So now I go where they want us to go, because we have a program that works. We tailor it to the needs of a country. It's not like one size fits all at all. That's not our model. We create based on the need of that country, and then create the program, create the whole structure for that country, hire local people, because we believe they know best to work with their people. So our program coordinators are always local, and then we run the program. So we give the IP and the structure, and we expect the local people to run it, so that the blend of two makes, really brings the impact, really has the impact. And then we see the numbers and the success of it.
That's beautiful. It's funny. It sounds very, very similar to what you were describing in terms of going into a country, hire local people, listen to what they want. That seems like a model that you reproduce. So it's the same thing that you did with the business, and coming up with the right ideas and getting people to solve their own problems by using the talent that they had internally. Where did that start?
I don't know. I think it's somewhere deep down in me, One of the things I've also learned, again, this is, I think one of my teachers in school, in primary school, I remember, I was very good in math. And I think I remember her telling me once that she had posted a question on the board, and I raised my hand saying, "But why wouldn't we do it this way?" or something. I was very in single digit age. And I remember her telling me, if you have a solution, put it forward. Don't look at the problem. Look at the solution, what you have in your head, and rework the problem to come back to the same solution where you are. But you have to prove to me that you're solving the problem that I've asked you to solve. But you have the answer, she told me. I was so young, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't understand what she was trying to say. But when I look back at it now, I feel that I think we all are capable of finding the solutions. We're afraid to voice it because we are not sure if it will succeed. That's where you have to learn to believe in yourself that, hey, I've given it my best shot. If it fails, dang, it's failed. I will try again or try a different way, but I need to voice it out or put it on a paper and look at it or sit on it for a few days and come back to it. And you will start seeing the answers, And I also, another thing is, I think, again, this must be my experience, and probably finally I'm getting a little wisdom in life, is that I see messages in no matter where you are, or solutions or inspiration, because you could be watching, like I said, a tennis game and you see a Rolex ad and something clicked, right? Or you're watching the news, or you're listening to someone talk about something that's got nothing to do with what you do in your everyday life. But there is, if you really listen, there are answers to so many questions that you're trying to figure out in everyday conversation, in everyday things that you see. I like to run early mornings, at 5 o'clock. It's so peaceful. It's like my Zen moment, because sometimes if I have a problem and I've gone to bed with it, and then you wake up in the morning and it's there, and you go for a run, and sometimes the clarity comes because there's nothing else there to disrupt or muddle your mind, because it's quiet outside, right? It's dark, no traffic, and it's just you on the road, and you're pounding up your feet. So and I don't listen to music at that time in the morning, because you want to just soak it in. So it's a lot of ideas come at that time, and then I come back home and quickly write it down. Especially if sometimes words just pop up, or a phrase or an idea, because that you can use it along the way in your job. So I always say, when you look at something, just don't look at it, see it. When someone's talking
when you look at something, don't look at it. Don't just look at it, see it. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And listen. Yeah. Listen, because words are so powerful. And actually most people, what they're saying, even if they're making a simple conversation, if it's about themselves or they have an issue or whatever, they're saying something that's relevant to them. And why are they saying it? You don't have to analyze it, but just try to be part of it.
That's so good. And I mean, I think when you said listen, sometimes it is just listen to even how you talk to yourself and the things that you say to yourself and what you allow to manifest within your mind. But I also love that piece about when you get your best ideas. And there's a school of thought that says that some of the best solutions that we've ever developed have come from people from one industry cross-pollinating another industry, because it's looking at different ways of approaching different things, and they're at times intersections, and that's when you can have these epiphany moments, these sort of strokes of brilliance. So I think that too would have contributed to your success, in that you would have come from a different industry and gone, you'd have been traveling all over the place, seen everything, gone into travel, gone into banking, gone into entrepreneurship, and so you're being exposed to all of this different stimuli that's lighting up different parts of your brain. And you're volunteering, with older people, younger people with dementia, all of these different things. And all of that feeds into your life experience that you are now, using to develop these new systems with the solutions that are already there. Fabulous.
Yeah. I always tell our students too, when we do the graduation for them, we always say, they're like, oh, Miss, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I always say, bigger goals. Always have a big goal where you ultimately want to get to. And I give them my own example. As a child, I always wanted to be serving people in some capacity. Take that and put it on a shelf up there, an imaginary shelf. You see this big box, and that box is your ultimate goal that you want to get to. But you don't get to it like climbing stairs or going on a straight line. You go left, you go right, you go backwards, forward. And I tell them, I did so many things, but I never took my eye off my ultimate goal. And always, whenever I found the time, I gave myself to the non-for-profit world. Or I volunteered during when I'm working, but I took time off. I gave it to the, between jobs, I gave time to the non-for-profit and never found that to be a wasted time.
Yeah.
And what that happens in the end, when I got this job at the foundation, even though I never worked in the non-for-profit, I had that empathy in me already for people. The compassion was there. I could understand what it entails for them to succeed, that I have to give 500% so that they get 100% and their output will be 500% eventually. So you got to kind of create that, have a mindset for it. And I told them, any job you get, take it, because you're starting out. But remember, when you move to another job, you don't forget what you did. You take the best, what you've learned, apply it into your next job, and you will find a way to apply. And that is how you carry forward and build your experience, not from the number of years, but from the number of things that you've learned. That adds, that's the quality, that is the quantitative stuff you carry with you. And the quality is the good stuff that you've done, and so they listen, they learn, but we hope that that's what they carry forward, but that's what I did.
And I love the whole thing about learning from failure and knowing that, listen, failure isn't failure, because once you learn from it and you take the good parts of it, and and there's all of this science about women sort of focusing too much on failure or ruminating on failure. But if you see it for what it is, an opportunity to learn and grow, and just take the good parts of it. What did I learn from that experience? What do I want to do differently from that experience? And then sometimes you realize there are times, certainly in my life, that I thought I failed, and I realized, oh my gosh, that was the best learning, and there was no other way I was going to learn that thing unless I have that experience. And so it wasn't failure at all.
Yeah. And another thing also, Racquel, is don't say, I'll do this tomorrow. Don't put it off. Okay, put it off for a day or two, but don't put it off. Or say, you know what, maybe in my next life, or maybe another year, because you may not get that opportunity. So life is fleeting. It's like a fleeting moment. And what's gone is gone. Time can never be, you can never get back time.
No.
So don't let it go wasted. If you want to laze it on, but don't regret it later, because once you start regretting, there's no end to it. And as women, we always want to be such perfectionists, right? We think, I can do this, I want to prove. We don't need to prove to anyone, but we need to prove to ourselves, and we have to be honest to ourselves. And I think that's where the disconnect is, and they say, oh, women leadership, either they scream, they think they want to be perfect, or it's none of those. I think we're competing in an environment that everybody is trying to be the best. The competition is so severe, no matter in which area you are in, because now we are all bundled up together, right? With the Gen Zs, the millennials, the whatever the other one, and whatever the baby boomers, and what else. We're all in it together, but our level of focus, our level of our output and input is so different that sometimes we start comparing, and then that brings the downfall or the failures. But if you stay in your lane, but look to your left and right, just like driving a car, there are other cars coming, but this is your space. Hold on to your space. And
focus on the things that you're best of, and realize that no one is better at being you than you. No one can beat you at that. So you don't have to worry about competition, because you're not competing with anybody but you at your best. Yeah,
that's true. That's very true. That's very true. So it's interesting that we all we do get very competitive, but we have to kind of reset, time and again, so that we're more focused on what we want to do and achieve, rather than trying to be the best.
Yeah. And I think, just be the best version of you. I think that's certainly my life's journey, trying to be the best version of me, which changes on a day-to-day basis, but nonetheless.
But nonetheless, Chitra, that's true. Yeah. And again, if you start comparing yourself with somebody else, if I say I want to be like Racquel and you're doing something so different, I don't know that you're saying, oh, I would like to be like Chitra. We don't know. The grass always looks green on the other side until you get there. So, enjoy your backyard the way it is.
No, but I mean, but what an opportunity. And I think there's a TED talk or someone who talks about when you feel jealousy, tap into that, because that is what you really want. And that is you saying to yourself, there is something there that I want to be or to exude or to experience, and then tap into that. It isn't about the other person. It is about you and figuring out what you want and lean into that, but from a really positive place.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that. It's another thing I tell my students is selfish. When somebody says, don't be selfish, I always tell them, be selfish. And they look at me and I'm like, if you want to be successful, you have to be selfish, because nobody can make you successful. We can give you all the tools, but if you don't use it and say, I always tell them 3 hours a day, you have to come to the class 3 days a week. If you say, Miss, I can't do this because that one wanted this and this one, you have to be selfish. You have to say that 3 hours is mine for my betterment. I will attend the class. Everything else has to wait. I said, that's when you learn to be selfish. Use it in the right place at the right time, and you will see the difference. So same thing with jealousy. Use it positively.
Yeah, and realize that you're worthy. So you are worthy of the things that you desire. You are worthy of spending time and enhancing yourself. You are worthy of the things that you put your mind to. So don't put it off, because it is yours to have.
Yeah.
And you deserve it.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great note for us to end on. Chitra, thank you so much for this conversation. And I do admire you and how you lead and how open you are and how warm and sharing you are. And so my hope is by interviewing you, I learned some of those things. So thank you so much today.
Thank you so much. And I always learn from you. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you for subscribing and for listening to this podcast. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. And if you want to recommend a guest or give us some feedback in the comments, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Till next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.